focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
And welcome to Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and as always, I'm bringing you some of the greatest minds in the world. We're talking about money, we're talking about business, health, and wealth. And today we get to hang out with Joseph Fung. He's the CEO of Uvaro, and there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't want to go through everything because he's got so many key points here. University of Waterloo computer engineering program, founder and CEO, multiple exits. Dude's a stud, okay? So I'm gonna allow him to explain what Uvaro is and what is it that you really do.
Sure. So to set the stage, I have founded, grown, sold 5 software technology companies. And in each and every single one, the hardest part was building and scaling a sales team. And you talk to every founder, they say the same thing. And so with Uvaro, we launched a tech sales accelerator. We help people from other industries, hospitality, retail, selling motorcycles, selling advertising. We help them get into tech by teaching them the lingo, the process, introducing them to technology companies. And we believe in this change so much that unlike traditional colleges and universities, we don't require you to pay tuition until after you've graduated, landed a role. And so we are also making the world of tech just so much more accessible than it's ever been. And it is so much fun.
So Uvaro is basically a tech school, if you will, right? And you're saying that they don't pay tuition up front, they pay it afterwards? How does that work?
So, in completeness, yes, some do pay up front. We have a discounted rate if you choose to pay in advance, but the reality is it's a tough time. Not everybody's got the cash that they can outlay to make something like that work. So we have an income share agreement. People can choose to pay after they graduate, after they land a role, and then they're only paying as a percentage of income, so they don't have to worry about getting slammed with a big school debt at the end of this process. Ultimately, we're helping tech companies grow. We're helping people launch amazing careers. And the part that's so cool is if you take the time to help somebody learn the language, learn the process, what they learn, selling real estate, selling hospitality, selling, even just talking to people. We have bartenders who are crushing it. They can do so well in technology. It's just they've never been given that, that foot in the door.
So we're going to get into this big time today. I'm very, very excited about talking with you. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. But I want to kind of take us back a little bit. Where'd you grow up and what did your parents do for a living? Curious.
Totally. Great question. Grew up in southwestern Ontario, so outside of the Toronto area. And my parents were entrepreneurs themselves in financial services, in HVAC. We used to say that my mother would sell insurance, investment products, and my father would sell those ducts that you see Bruce Willis crawl through in all the movies. So we had a lot of fun, and they were very encouraging. That's the right word. Yeah. So my first business was during high school, graphic design, desktop publishing, and they were some of my first customers and introduced me to many other first customers. So very empowering entrepreneurs in and of themselves.
I love that because I'm an entrepreneur, and for 25 years I've been an entrepreneur, and I'm raising some kids right now, and I just love the fact that one day, hopefully, because they're great kids, they really are, but hopefully they come back and they get on a podcast one day and they say, yeah, my dad was so encouraging. My dad was always pushing us up. My dad was always helping us and trying to get us better. And so I think it's cool because you are the you're the final product or of sorts from your parents that encouraged you, and look at you now. You got a great company. You've been very, very successful, financially successful, and continue to be, and that's just pretty awesome. And so now, were you a good kid growing up? And what were you like growing up?
I'd say I was my parents will say I was a good kid. I'd say I was a handful. I'm going to go with that. They joke right now that growing up, the thing that scared them the most is I'd come running into the room, and to my sisters or to my parents, I'd be, I have an idea. And it's, we're building something that's really dangerous, or we're going somewhere we shouldn't be. And even now, my sister's working the business with me. I think we still get caught up in that kind of fun, enthusiastic, hey, I've got an idea. And that's the best part about having an entrepreneurial background and having an entrepreneurial journey, is you get to see those ideas come to fruition.
Yeah, that's fun to talk about now because you don't realize. I was that bad kid growing up, so I was, and I would say bad. I hung out with the wrong people. I did everything I wasn't supposed to do, and but the cool thing about it, when you're an entrepreneur, really it doesn't even matter. What matters is that at the end of the day, you get serious, you get
Mm.
focused, you create, you master your craft, and you create your product, or your business. And so did you have, kind of, other than your parents, did you have a, like, first mentor, or is there some company or CEO that you kind of modeled yourself after?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was a CEO that I tried to model myself after, but I definitely had a number of individual mentors that helped me in different stages. I had, the benefit of an individual who's an amazing public speaker. He was an, he was a rocket scientist who then got into psychology, and he was an entrepreneur. And a lot of the way he thinks about leadership and balancing responsibilities, I absorbed a lot of those. My parents as well, the idea of balancing entrepreneurial success and philanthropy and charity. How do you make the world a better place, not just through your products, but also through your actions? And groups like my mastermind group, my BNI group, each of those leaders all contributed in really meaningful ways. So I'm a big proponent of feedback. I say this within our company, on the outside, that feedback is a gift, and every piece of information you get back from someone is an opportunity to grow and to improve. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say there's one where I said I want to be like that one person. Rather, I've been surrounded by a crew of people where I could say, hey, I want to build that skill like you. I want to learn how to be as compassionate as you, or as motivational leader as you. And that's given me a plethora of people to look up to. I'm very fortunate with that.
That's fantastic because especially young people, they don't like feedback, and so for you now, I don't know, how old are you, by the way?
Oh, I'm so excited. I tipped the scales in at 40 this year, and our
Okay.
vaccine policies just opened it up to 40 a couple of weeks ago. So, I'm
Okay.
gonna I'm gonna take that as a good thing now.
Okay. Yeah, no, you look like you're like 23. I'm sure somebody told you that. And again, but I was confused because you sound like you're, 60, in the sense of your knowledge and your understanding. And what's cool about what you talked about is that a lot of young people, they just don't want feedback. When you tell them something, they get their feelings hurt, or they don't know how to take it. They're always taking things personal versus taking it as, like you said, a gift,
Mhm.
feedback. And I was always like that. And I think I did okay early on because of that. I had some great mentors, some great leaders. When they told me stuff, I was excited to hear it. I was excited. Like, even
Mhm.
though maybe some of it might have hurt my feelings, or I didn't feel great about it, I was always excited because I was like, man, yeah, tell me. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves, man. You tell me what to do, I'll do it, as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral, and I feel like it makes sense. I'm all in, man. Let's go.
Totally. I think we run the risk of, um, so feedback's a gift, and the big thing we talk about is be thoughtful in how you receive that feedback, because you're going to get feedback whether you like it or not. People whose body language shows they're resistant to your ideas, or people who are high-fiving you or cheering you, or they're like, wow, you're so successful, Daniel, you've done so much, I want to be like. All these things are points of feedback. And it's really important that we empower our employees, our peers, our friends, to think about that stuff critically and choose what they accept. And a good way to think about it, we've all been there, where someone's given us a compliment or said this was really good, and we didn't feel like we totally earned that. And those are just as important to think critically about. Like, hey, what did they see in that they took a lot of value from, that wanted them to say that? And then to take that internally. Don't just take the praise blindly. So it goes both ways, the constructive and the praising feedback. We've got to be thoughtful, internalize it, and figure out how we're going to incorporate that into ourselves.
All right, let's talk about the brand strategy and business model behind Uvaro.
Mhm.
Explain that to me the best you can.
Totally. So we talked a little bit earlier. Our tuition model is a little bit different, and a lot of people give tech a hard time. It's full of a lot of very successful, often technically driven white men, and that's how the group gets labeled. And the reality is, it's really tough to move that needle. So when we founded Uvaro, we said, "Hey, how do we do this in a way that's as inclusive as possible?" The thing we often point to is there's not enough talent at the top of the funnel. Well, how do we change that dynamic? And the easiest way to do that is by making it as open and as accessible as possible. So we don't have a referral only or invitation only approach. We don't rely just on referral marketing. We open up that top of the funnel and we based our tuition on a model that was accessible as possible. The big thing though, the really important thing is ultimately our customer is the student, the person who comes in and says, "Hey, I want to grow my career." And that makes a lot of sense if you realize, education is inextricably tied to employment. People go to college, they go to university, they get a degree to get a better job. And I mean, as much as I wish otherwise, colleges and universities don't have a stake in whether or not you get a job because you've paid that tuition or you've got that loan. And so we said we wanted to put our money where our mouth is, and that's just like sales. Sales, there's shared alignment. You close the deal, you get commission, the company wins, vice versa. Like, hey, let's do the same thing. Let's align our incentives. And that's had a very interesting side effect where we have a much broader diversity of students. And it means we care deeply about how effective people are in their job search and in their job. And so we see our grads, they go into companies and they ramp 50% faster than their peers. They're exceeding quota more often, and they're landing new jobs on average 17 days after graduation. Like, wow, I would challenge any college or university to offer those kind of stats. So it's been a really fun thing. And the really nice side effect is companies want that type of person, somebody who's driven, self-motivated, invested in themselves, can ramp faster. And so we have employers knocking down our door every day to say, "Hey, how do I connected with your grads?" And it's a great virtuous cycle.
I think that, I mean, for me personally, I think that what you're doing is awesome because it's going to give them skills that, at least this is what I'm seeing here. It's going to give them skills that a college is probably not going to give them. I mean,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
last time I checked, colleges are not teaching you how to sell. And we're going to talk about sales today and marketing and things. I mean, most colleges, I mean, by the time they got it in their books to teach you, it's already outdated. Mm-hmm. And how, so again, I'm one of those guys where, I mean, I did not go to college and I did pretty okay for myself. And so I'm very against learning stuff that's not going to be able to be applied in the real world. I mean, most people, they go to college and you say, "Hey, what are you going to college for?" "Oh, I'm just getting some general ed. I'm going to spend the next 2 years like doing ceramic in art theory." You know what I mean? And they have no idea what they're doing. So share with me your thoughts on like traditional college and what you're doing.
Totally. So first off, your first comment, schools don't teach sales. Absolutely right. Less than 2% of US colleges and universities have any sales material. And for most of them, it's one class in a marketing diploma. So you're right, we're not teaching this. And it is a shame. The top VCs in the industry expect software as a service. Again, this is a subset of tech. Software as a service to get to 800 billion in revenue within 10 years, and we're short 250,000 sales professionals. If we relied on the few colleges and universities who train that, they'd show up 80 years too late. So it's not feasible. There's some very interesting things we can learn from colleges and universities, though. So one of the big things, we partnered with the University of Waterloo, who has the world's largest cooperative education program. So it's a work integrated learning program. And we borrowed a lot of their ideas in the design of our program. So all of our grads get the opportunity to do paid internships where they can take what they've learned in our classes and apply them directly to work. And when they go to the job hunt now, they can say, "Here's what I did in a sales role, in a sales function. Here's my numbers. Here's my performance." That opens doors like nothing else. The second lesson we learned from colleges and universities, you hit the nail on the head. People say, "I'm going to do this 2-year journey and I'm going to learn what I want to do." they go into it not always with this clear goal, like a general direction. Maybe I want to do something medical. Maybe I want to do something businessy, but they want to learn what they want to do. We bake that into our program. And we talk a lot about how your sales work will differ greatly. If you're at an early stage company, maybe a late one that sells to large businesses, one that sells to small businesses, one that sells a large dollar value, a small one. We spend a lot of time with our students talking about not just how do you sell, like what's the science of selling, but also how do you choose the right company? Because you could send out 50 resumes to 50 companies and have no luck. But if you know the exact type of role, the exact type of company you want to be in, and you're laser focused, the secret sauce is that that's the same way that you win in sales. You be targeted and focused. We help them exercise those same skills in their job search, and it pays amazing dividends. And now we have grads working at Lever, Vidyard, Shopify, Docebo. I mean, all of the greatest, coolest tech companies. And that feels really cool because they came in, never think they could get there, and then they leave. And within a few weeks, they are there. It's really fun.
That's a neat thing to talk about, because the truth is, most people, 50% of people that go to college, they're living back with their parents within 12 to 18 months. And so it's a tragedy to me. And I think what you hit the nail on the head when you said that most people just don't know what they want. And when you can define what it is, and that's everything in life, right? When you set goals, you give yourself such a better chance. If you go into a big university just because your parent told you to go to a big university, and you have no idea why you're there, and you're just going there because you think that you're just supposed to do this, this is why people fail out. And this is why people fail in life in general. There's no focused direction. They have no. And so it sounds to me like your program is guiding people, figuring out what they want, and then guiding them to get what it is that they want. Am I hitting it there?
Yeah, in all honesty, we're exercising a lot of the same skills you exercise in sales. We spend time with our customers uncovering their underlying kind of pains and needs, figure out what are the opportunities available, and then show those opportunities and let them make a choice. Like a good example, this is not just quote college aged individuals. One of our students, he graduated 6-7 months ago, about the same age as me, 20 years as a pastor, got to a point where he said, I need to be able to make a bigger difference. I need to find a new direction. I'm not where I need to be. And if you want to talk about someone who's built strong skills at uncovering, pain, having difficult, meaningful conversations, helping people find their path, what better profession to do that? And yeah, now he's selling software. He's out of New York selling software, crushing it. And his life has found new meaning. He came to us halfway through and he said, hey guys, I have never felt more human. Because now he's doing the exact same thing, but he's doing it at a bigger scale. He's helping not just one person at a time, but whole teams, whole companies. And that knock-on effect is so fulfilling for him. Someone who's already been out of school, spent 20 years in a career in a very different field, if they can go through it, then just about anyone can.
Let's talk about sales. Let's kind of get into the psychology and philosophy of what you guys really talk about. So, I know that there's some sales practices that you'd like to talk about, and I want you to maybe tell us a little bit about those sales practices that you feel are pretty vital to anybody that wants to be a great communicator.
For sure. I think the first one is it's really about eliminating a stereotype. A lot of people hear sales, and it's a triggering word for a lot of people. They think it's about persuading people to buy things they don't need. And we hear that from a lot of our students. They come in and they say, hey, can I be a real authentic person? Can I sell and not lie? These are real questions. And one of the things I love most about technology sales, especially business to business technology sales, is the reality couldn't be further from the truth. Like, you're going in and just from business perspective, everything's on subscription these days. If you persuade somebody to buy something they don't need, they cancel right away. You've wasted money. The company's wasted money. You're going to be out of there really soon. So just pure brass tacks, employment and ROI, it's not true. Most importantly, the way you succeed is you sit and you talk to these people. You uncover what their underlying pains are. And if you can't solve those pains, you're wasting your time, your company's time. So you're incentivized to disengage as quickly as possible. But if you really do solve their pain, your job is to present them with the information, support them as they make a decision, and help them get to the finish line. It's a very human, a very fulfilling experience. So selling in the modern world is very much just about helping people every day. And that feels so good.
I think what you said is right on. I mean, disengaging fast. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I made. I mean, I tell people all the time that I've been in sales for 25 years, financial services, investments, similar to your mom, probably investments and insurance. And what and of course I recruit, and I have a 1,500 licensed agent organization, 48 locations. And so what happened with me is, as a young person, I was trying to convince people to go into business with me.
Yeah.
Instead of just working a larger net, using a larger net and finding the right people, because the right people are there. The right people want my product. The right people want to go into business with me. Problem is I wasted so much time on the wrong people that I feel like I could be 10 times bigger than we are today.
So much. I'll give you, this is a small tip that'll be relevant to every entrepreneur, every sales rep who's listening in. We got this from the team at Shopify. So every business out there has some way of measuring their time to close. From people, when I first talk to them to when I close that deal, how long does it take me? 7 days, 15 days, 60 days, 2 years. It's different for every business. The smart folks at Shopify, they'll track time to lose. What is the average time for your closed lost deals? Did you go from first touch to marking them lost? Because what was happening is you get all these reps. They've got happy ears. They say, hey, this deal's going to happen. It's always, my guy's moving this. It's always my guy. Like, my guy is going to get the contract to somebody. And it sits in your funnel. And you email them once a week. You do a call. You're wasting your pipeline review. So many cycles on these deals that are never going to happen. But if you can keep your team focused on a really tight time to lose, you get your bad deals out of your funnel, and that hour you wasted could be spent on 2 or 3 other better deals, and your performance will just jump up. So time to lose, that's when you got to track.
Oh, good stuff, man. That to me is going to be like such an important piece of this podcast, because that is going to get people to start moving through the process quicker. And by the way, I've implemented that. I mean, obviously through the last several years, I'm learning lots of different things, and technology has changed my life in the fact that now I can sit there with somebody that I've generated a lead from. And I think that the challenges in the past, it was because I had a relationship. I built a relationship. It took a little bit longer to even get in with that guy, right? And so I felt like I had to keep working on it, because it took me time to get them. So I was going to try to make sure I got them. But now with lead generation and marketing and online, and now I can funnel something and market something to somebody that's exactly who I'm looking for at the right moment in his life, and have such a higher close ratio in such a shorter amount of time. What you know about that?
100%. I mean, there's so many simultaneous forces moving us in the right direction. I mean, the global pandemic accelerated a lot of remote sales. We saw this viscerally. When we first started, we expected all of our grads were going to be at B2B software companies who sold in the mid-market. The reality, though, is we have a much wider variety of companies using the same skills, hiring for the same skills in banking, in solar, in vehicles, in all sorts of industries that everyone would have thought. So yes, big trends are happening. The part that's really, really daunting about it, and this is a bit of a wake-up call, is that most CEOs, most business owners, most executives are comfortable buying fully remote, way more than they ever did. Gartner released a really, really cool study earlier this year. And one of the things that jumped out to me, a huge, holy crap moment, 80% of the CEOs surveyed were comfortable spending up to $50,000 never having met the sales rep in person. That's just online. It's like phone, Zoom, things like that. Now, that sounds like a big, exciting opportunity. Great, I could sell so much. It is also a terrifying thing. Like, wow, that means my customers, even if the ones down the road, are willing to buy from another city, another state, another country. So we all need to be at the top of our game in the way we use tools, the way we use messaging, and the focus we bring to bear. So we really can't afford to just half-ass it, hang it on the golf course, hope that eventually turns into a deal. We have to be precise and focused in our messaging, and that's okay, because that's also what the buyers want. It's like, if you got value, bring it to me. If you don't try and persuade me otherwise.
It is an amazing time we're living in, and it's wild because I've always said that, like, just the universe has always given me the things that I needed at the right time. Like when Google came out. I mean, how awesome was that you could search anything in the world, right? And then Google Docs, to allow you to be remote and be at the car wash and be able to get on your spreadsheet at the car wash without your laptop or anything. And then Zoom comes out. I haven't basically left my office in a year. You know what I mean? I mean, it's wild to even think that I used to drive an hour to somebody's home and they wouldn't even be there. So it would completely waste my day, my night, my driving time, my gas, my whatever. And today, if I get on a Zoom and they're not there, well, yeah, then I just go back to doing whatever I was doing and just continue on. But the time saving that technology is bringing to the table is absolutely phenomenal. I want to, you are, the sales generational change. I want you to talk a little bit about that and what you need to be successful in sales today. Maybe give us a couple of other tips that maybe some early on the salespeople, they just are not getting.
Totally. It's really interesting. I feel like generational change is the right phrase because some people assume, the new way of selling and the way companies are growing is better. Some assume that change is a scary thing. And the truth is there's some benefits and some strengths on both sides. It's funny, if you speak to people who have been in sales for a decade or two, you can ask them things like which companies are great at selling, and when you ask them that, the answer are always companies that have exceptional training programs. They point to companies like Xerox, CDW, companies that have this really robust culture of teaching, training, and developing sales. On the flip side, if you talk to technology companies, younger companies, ones where the CEOs, are just a different vintage, you'll hear a lot of comments and strengths about companies that leverage technology and the culture really well. They'll talk about HubSpot and SalesLoft sales culture and scientific selling. And the problem is that you really do need both of them. So when I speak to people who are coming into our program, they've been selling for a couple of decades, but maybe not in tech. One of the things they're always surprised at is, holy crap, there's so many tools. Like the average high-tech salesperson ends up using between 12 and 20 tools. They often don't even notice it. Some of them are obvious, like their CRM. Some of them are invisible, like the tool that lets people book your calendar on their own, like a Calendly. So they're often overwhelmed by the volume of tools. And so for someone that's just getting into sales and they're early on, one of the things I'd really emphasize is practice adopting and using new tools. And it's really easy. I mean, you can look at the Google App Store. What are the top-rated business tools? Try them out. You can go to the Apple App Store, do the same thing. Just get comfortable trying new tools because A, you're going to use a lot. And since the average tool in a sales and marketing organization gets swapped out every 4 or 5 years, that means if your team's using 20 of them, every year you've got 4 or 5 new tools to learn. So that's an important skill. And then on the flip side, a lot of tech companies kind of have their heads up there, whatever, in terms of hiring fresh grads and saying, we're going to throw them into the pit. They're going to learn by osmosis. And it's like, hey, follow what Larry's doing here. Samantha, you've been here for 2 years. You're a team lead now. That is not how you build a sustainable organization. And I think there's a lot that sales leaders in tech and emerging companies can learn from the Xeroxes, the CDWs about building a sustainable trading culture. And I mean, if they all figured out how to do it, we probably wouldn't have as robust a business. So I shouldn't complain too much. But I think there's a lot to be said for, as an individual, if you're joining a company like that, knowing that you need to own your own development and learning because the company probably hasn't set those functions up yet. They're just too early in their own journey as a company. So yeah, you have to be comfortable acquiring new tools and you have to develop your own sense of learning and development because the company won't do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just so many tools out there. I mean, even me, again, over this last couple of years, I mean, obviously Zoom is something we all had to figure out pretty quickly, especially in my business, because we were a face-to-face business. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you ain't face-to-face. So you either, change or you die, right? It's pretty simple.
I'd love to hear that as a good example. What other tools have you had to adopt in your business?
Oh
Is
my God. I mean, it's wild. Yeah. I mean, Calendly is the one thing that you had talked about. I mean, just even setting up this meeting here with you, how awesome is it that you went and found the date that was right for you? So that saved us time from going back and forth, trying to figure out the right day and time. So I just sent you a link, you picked it. That link automatically is integrated with Zoom. So Zoom automatically set that up for me. Calendly set that up for me. And then the Zoom sent you over the link even through email. That was
exactly
all automated. And when we get done with this today, you'll automatically get, and then you got a text message reminding you 2 hours ago. Did you get the text message?
I did. It was
Reminding
great.
you, yeah, I mean, reminding you, hey, you got this podcast with Daniel today. So it reminds the client, and then as soon as we're done, you'll get a little thank you from me. You'll have a little link. You'll go to a page, and it's actually on my website, and it'll say thank you very much for your time. I mean, all of that is done without me. So that means that I get more time to obviously generate more leads and more clients and more customers, or just have more free time to do what I want to do.
100%. Those examples of like leveraging Zoom, leveraging Calendly, those are great examples. So for those who are listening, and I really hope that they do the same thing. And I'll call it out because you can get started with these things for free. I mean, you don't even have to have the paid offering for Zoom, for Calendly. I'll toss out a couple more in that free library. Things like Vidyard, fantastic tool that lets you record videos right from your browser, from your phone, and send people links embedded in that video. The part that makes it so cool is it's not only easy to record and upload, but you'll get notified when people are watching it. So if we bake that into the example, Daniel, you could have that video get sent to me automatically as a participant, and you'd get notified when I actually watched it or not, which is, whoa, so that's super helpful. So that's one I'll toss to. And then things like Chrome extensions to help you reach out to people. You get things like Hunter, a way to help find people's email addresses to reach out to them. Like, if you want to talk about free tools that help get your day more effective, there's a ton of them. And whether someone's an entrepreneur or someone's a sales rep, in the new day, new age, they've got to be comfortable leveraging them. The last one that I'll give, this one, pure bias, this is a tool we've made, free tool though, Kite, KIITE.ai. It's a free sales playbook platform. So if you've got 1 or 2 or 3 or more people on your sales team and you want them staying aligned on the best practices, it's a free way to help them share their stories, their anecdotes, their battle cards. And yeah, then you've got it right at your fingertips. And same thing, these are all free tools that people can be using and sales teams do all the time.
I love it. I mean, this is the thing that I'm really interested in because I just feel like the old system is outdated. The old way of doing things, the old way of prospecting, the old way of generating clients, the old way of meeting people is just different. And the truth is, in the old days, you would meet somebody out in the about, and you'd generate a lead and make a new friend or whatever, or you'd put out an ad somewhere and it would be in a newspaper or the penny saver or whatever they were back then. And then you go, Well, people are now either they're going to die or they're going to change, and people
Mm.
need to start adapting to the new way of the world because it's to me it's fun. And the one thing I want to say about that is not only is it fun, it brings happiness because when you learn how to use a new tool, like I'm learning how to all these new apps. I'm learning how to invest differently. Obviously, I'm investing a little bit into crypto now, just a small percentage of my portfolio. But you have to learn how to use these apps to even put the damn money in some of these apps is complicated. It's like, what the hell do you have to do?
Treating a
So
wallet and a cold wallet and yeah.
yeah, it's like what the so and again, I'm only 47. I mean, I can't imagine if somebody no 46, sorry, 47 this year. But I can't even imagine somebody that's 60 years old. This is daunting for them. So
Yeah.
a school like yours though is going to give them access to learning a lot of this stuff. Am I right? I mean, how do you guys teach and integrate this into your process?
You're absolutely right. I mean, at a surface level, like, yeah, we use all these tools, we share them, we use Zoom for our classes, we give people access to, we're using HubSpot, we're using Salesloft, we're checking out Mailshake, we're using Hunter, we're using Kite, we're using Vidyard, we're all of these things. The big thing though is it's a safe space. One of the first classes that we emphasize and we talk about is no stupid questions. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is. I'll give you an example. I mentioned earlier software as a service. SaaS. Inside the industry, we usually say SaaS. Yeah, I run a SaaS company. It's a SaaS platform. How many SaaS subscriptions do we have? One of our first students, first class, we open up the doors and we say, hey, why'd you join Uvaro? And amazing sales rep. The guy's been selling security solutions in Winnipeg, Manitoba, door to door. He's like bitter, cold. And he's been crushing his sales quotas. He's got grit. And he says, Joseph, I can't wait to get a job at an SaaS company. And we say, no stupid questions. Hey, by the way, we usually say SaaS. And the reason I emphasize that is I'll talk to VPs of sales at technology companies and I share that anecdote. And half the time, that head of sales kind of chuckles or laughs and goes, well, if they said that in the first interview, there wouldn't be a second. Like, come on. It's such an interesting place of privilege where we've got this talent deficiency. There's not enough sales reps to help tech companies grow. But at the same time, because somebody spells out an acronym instead of saying it, you're not going to give them a second interview. Like, what the hell's going on? So yeah, to speak to that, somebody who's 60 and hasn't used the tool, somebody who's fresh out of the school and only ever read the phrase SaaS, they don't know. So we have to create a safe space for people to ask those questions. This is the only way to grow.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there's a lot of people that are going to change industries. In my business, people come in all over the place. There was construction workers that today are mega successful. There were school teachers that make big money today, and it was all because they decided to adapt and change and learn a new vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And if nobody ever teaches you the right way to do something or the right vocabulary, how the hell are you ever going to know? How do you ever get a chance if you don't start somewhere? And we all got to start somewhere at some point. And so this is good stuff. I mean, I do want to ask you a little bit about leadership because I'm sure you guys teach leadership at your school, and I don't know if you do, but I'm assuming, I hope you do a little bit. Does leadership come into play at all? Do you guys teach that at all?
It's an interesting one. I would not say it's a leadership program. Because if someone's looking to develop leadership skills, there's way more than we can cover in our program. But one of the things that we do emphasize is every sales team, when they're looking to hire people, one of the top skills they're looking for is leadership. So we have a number of areas that we hop on. We talk a lot about how do you do peer mentorship? How do you give feedback in constructive ways? Really importantly for our team, though, we also talk a lot about how do you be authentic in your leadership. And that's a really hard one. It's a really tough one because everyone who's in our program comes from a different background, a different experience. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for us to say, hey, do this thing, because that may or may not be authentic for them. Instead, we try to give really good examples. So we open up a lot of our classes to the public. so that folks can participate and see what we're doing. How do you walk the talk? How do you live the talk? And we try to give a really good example for how you can kind of in a work experience kind of wear your values on your sleeve. How can you let people see what you stand for? How can you be honest with what you stand for? And how do you find an organization where that fits in well so that you can be authentic in your everyday workplace? And we spend a lot of time in that because if you can't do that, it's really hard to be a leader in the workspace. And so we try to give people a safe place to build that muscle. It's foreign to a lot of people. So we let people practice it in the way they write, the way they speak, the way they present. And we see it every time. You should attend one of our demo days. It's every month. The class graduates. 4 of them participate in a sales pitch competition, and watching the way they bring themselves into that sales pitch. Every time our judges, who are sales leaders from outside, they come in and go, oh my goodness, wow, I wish our teams did more of that. And they're setting that example, and they're leading by example in their work. It's so cool.
Well, I think that's great. I mean, even though you said you're not a sales school, to me, it sounds like you are because of what you just said right now. I mean, to me, sales, requires you to be a leader. I mean, leadership is everything. I mean, all great companies are created and become great companies. And you know this because you've sold companies. It's because they have a great leader. You see the stock price of a company go down dramatically because one person leaves the company. Let's be honest here. I mean, so leadership is very critical. Now, if you want to be a salesperson, well, inevitably, if you're going to make any money at it, you're probably going to have a sales team, which means you're going to have to lead people. And the one key point that you made right now is that they are leading by example. And to me, that's the most important thing that any great leader could, possess, is that ability to say, you know what, I'm willing to go first. I'm willing to get beat up. I'm willing to get my ass kicked. I'm willing to take it in the chin, right? First, to prove concept or to prove that it works, and to willing to take that hit before anybody else. That to me is a leader that leads by example. So as we kind of close this out, what would you say is one of your favorite books that you've ever read?
Oh my goodness. There's so many, and picking one is really tough. I am going to give a shout out to one that I've read really recently that I found really helpful, and that's Leaders Under Fire. Conway Fraser. It's a short, easy, super tactical book. And the reason it stuck out to me, I mean, I've read a ton of books that are very motivating, very inspiring, gave me kind of key nuggets of wisdom. This one was a little different in that it challenged me to reframe my thinking around crisis communications and PR. And at the same time, it gave me really actionable checklists and items and things that literally we took it, walked away with our team. We're like, hey, this is how we're going to put this plan in place. So if anyone's an entrepreneur and they're worried about their business, or they're a sales rep and they're worried about how they'd handle a disaster, or they just want to be a leader and they're worried how they react, that's a quick, easy, fast one that I'd highly recommend.
Favorite movie?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. You know what? It's the same. My favorite movie, my favorite play, and it's actually my favorite book, but it's nonfiction. So it's fiction. I didn't bring it up, was Les Miserables, because that always hits me. I know it's not like the typical business answer, but hits me every time.
Good stuff, man. Favorite food?
You know what? Peking duck. I'll always go for that.
So what's your ethnicity?
So I am mixed to Chinese, mixed European. And so for us growing up, Peking duck was always that thing we went for a special event. You graduated, you got a new accomplishment, parents hit a big milestone. Peking duck was the celebratory food. So it's all tied up in that family and emotions.
Oh, good stuff. Ice cream or cake?
Ice cream. Every day, any time of day.
Oh my goodness. I think I might be addicted to ice cream. I love ice cream. Man, Joseph, this has been so much fun, man. I really appreciate your time today. I want everybody to know who you are. My audience is going to go follow you on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else. So tell us how we follow you, how we get in touch with you, where do we go to connect with the awesome Joseph Fung?
So people can hit me on just about any social network, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all at Joseph Fung. And if they want to learn more about what we're doing, our website's Uvaro, UVARO.com.
All right. Well, we are going to go do that. So I encourage everybody to go follow Joseph everywhere. And then, do me a favor if you can, when you contact Joseph, just say, hey, we saw you on Wealth on the Beach Club with Daniel Alonzo. And I'd love if you were to do that for me. And of course, subscribe and share this podcast like crazy with everybody. This is one of my favorite podcasts so far. And I just really appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you, Joseph. I want everybody to remember to continue to dream bigger than ever, but get after it. And most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.